time split. So we're just looking for people who are, if you want to keep talking, that's perfectly fine, but you can do it outside. That would be great. The level of expertise with which the board is required to review. So Ms. Ma, I'm sure you, Ms. Ma?
Fire truck.
Fire truck.
Fire truck.
Fire truck.
Fire truck.
We just need to kind of drop everything to a close.
We were talking to you,
I don't want to
calm down.
need the conversations to stop, so.
By the way, I want to apologize for being late. We had a rattlesnake. We had to wrangle it, so.
All right. So I wanted to say that the level of expertise with which the board is required to review this is what a reasonable person would determine and make the reasonable decision based on the criteria set out in statute. I did that off the top of my head. I didn't look for it, but that's really what I have to go to in order to make this determination. Reasonable is widely debated, I'm sure. But that's the whole point in going through these conditions and how we're going to lay this out and try to get to a reasonable standpoint of mitigating all of those 4 or 5 elements that are applicable to this as an airport. It's not in the zone, in the perimeter, in the area of impact. So the first one is the proposed conditions, if approved. Number 1, to develop a permit that shall be obtained before any mining or processing of mineral or aggregate resources. The applicant shall also obtain all other permits required by this code and other licenses or permitting entities having jurisdiction over the operation. The continuance of additional permits and approvals in good standing shall be a condition for continuance of the county's development permit. The performance of the standards required by this article shall also be necessary for the issuance or continuance of the development permit. I'm good with that one. That one was easy, if that's okay with you. General operations related to conditions. The hours of operation for the mining and processing of aggregate resources shall be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The days of operation shall be Monday through Saturday, excluding the following holidays: New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Maintenance of equipment may take place at any time. I think that what I was looking for is consistent with other mineral or aggregate operations in Josephine County, and if I remember correctly, it's not to that extent. Saturday, I don't believe, is included in the Mahana application. 7 to 7, if I remember, for the Mahana to operate, but the applicant has requested 8 to 5.
The applicant requested 7 to 5 Monday through Friday, and it was 7 to 5. Support that means.
It's 2 hours less than what I would say the Mahana site is operating at, and I think that's a gift. So I would to amend that to 7 to 5.
Yes. Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, and with the respected holidays as well.
Yeah, we'll just double check and make sure that this is the same one's wrong.
7 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Yes. That's fine.
Number 3, extraction area shall be substantially screened from the view of existing conflicting uses subject to the following specifications. Mining and processing equipment, whether in use or in storage, shall be screened. Stockpiles of aggregate do not need to be screened and may be used for screening. Item B, screening may consist of natural vegetation and landscape features, or may be supplied by planting vegetation or placement of berms, fences, or other similar development features, including the proposed cyclone fence installed along excavations exceeding 3-to-1 slope and noise mitigation barriers. If vegetation is used as screening, it shall be maintained alive. An item, what should we see? Earthen barriers shall be stabilized with ground cover. And item D, visual screening may not be required if topography, growing conditions, or other circumstances at the site make it impractical or otherwise unnecessary to shield the site from the view of conflicting uses. Those are the 4 that are set out under item 3, substantial screening from viewing and conflicting areas. think it gives the widest breadth of options for screening, and to limit that would be good. So, this gives everything from berms to cyclone fence and vegetation. I'm okay with it. So item 3 stands with the corrections of A, B, C, and D just being appropriately noted. Item 4 is on-site parking shall be provided for all employees, customers, and official visitors. So that would just say that you couldn't park on the street if you were going to be visiting the site. I'm fine with that one. Number 5 is excavation and stockpiling shall be set back from property lines so that the lack of lateral support and the angle of repose of the geological deposit will not undermine or intrude onto adjoining lands, and additional setback may be required to allow the placement and maintenance of fencing.
And go back to the number 4. The on-site parking shall be provided for all employees, customers. There will be no parking on Placer Road
For mining
for mining operations, or employees, or customers, or official visitors. Just in case.
or is otherwise provided by a permit through Public Works.
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
I think my thought was is the only reason that they need roadside any kind, even temporarily, would be the construction of the bridge. Putting that in, like, I don't know if they're doing it from their side or coming in. Once that road's in, everything should be taken off. So they're, I think that's appropriate. Use roads. So there's the- So the second sentence I have, there will be no use of public roads unless otherwise permitted. I read item 5 already, do you want me to read it on? I think the additional setback makes sense. If you're stockpiling and your stuff starts to go on somebody else's property, that's inappropriate. Item number 6, mining and processing of mineral and or aggregate resources shall be set back from the top of the bank of any stream in compliance with Article 72.040. These special setback requirements, existing native vegetation shall be maintained in the setback area. I think that's a,
Yes.
Number 7, no mining shall occur within 30 feet of the Williams pipeline crossing the property or within 15 to 20 feet of the PPL electric towers. So it was referenced by Mr. Rodin, I believe, and I quote, instead of letting a problem bloom into a severe situation, let's work together to analyze and perhaps come up with a solution that works. Of everything, I thought that was the most, that's what we're trying to go after here. And the shut-off valves that he talked about, I think it was it wasn't at the Planning Commission, I believe it was at our, talked about having a redundant, automatic, and manual shut-off valves. I don't like the idea of the closest shut-off valves being 15, a cumulative of 27 miles on either side. So,
Yeah.
that's a lot of natural gas before you actually are able to do something about it. Either with a couple hundred PSI, that's unacceptable to me. And that's why I kind of wanted to say that, I appreciate them by every type of chance that natural gas has had an opportunity to escape. There was a letter probably behind this before that happened. If there are measures that can be done and we don't, that's where I see us not going full force.
Well, as they say, there is a shut-off
On the property.
on the property. And all of that is fine if there is not an accident and the pipe is broken on the property. Then you gotta go 13 or 13.
Yeah, is it?
And I don't know whether, I have no idea what the cost is involved as far as the pipeline company to put a shut-off in a different area that's closer, that's not right on the property kind of thing. But I think it would be certainly worthwhile investigating, but I think they have three shut-offs. They have 14 north, 14 south, and right there. And right there, they're saying that is not an issue for them. And with these provisions as far as not mining at all within 30 feet of the pipeline, you know, they're saying with their multi-million-dollar investment, they don't have an issue with that, the structure of the whole process of that, so.
So the easement is also for 60 feet, but it isn't 30 on either side. If I remember correctly, it's 20 and 40. So you get to a point of where 30 and 40 is actually 70 feet, not 60 feet. So there's some inconsistencies with numbers, right? And I don't know how to necessarily work them out. Specifically in the conditions, how do we craft a condition that meets with all of that, so the numbers work out, there's a safety element included up to everything that's possible that they can do on the property or prior on either side, and it's an appropriate condition, so how do we craft that?
Because, I mean, you cannot lock out the possibility of anything and everything happening.
No, but if there are measures, yeah, just try to put those in, that's what conditions are for. Let's come back to number 7, and maybe you guys can try to think about a way, not right now, maybe just think about it. We've got 35 more to go, so. There shall be, number 8, there shall be no mining or processing activity within the flood hazard area. Sounds good to me. Number 9, all mining and processing of mineral and or aggregate resource sites, access road construction and bridge construction across Grave Creek shall meet the erosion control and site drainage standards contained in Article 83, erosion control and storm drain facilities, and per the Westlake Consultant Stormwater and Erosion Control Plan, as well as any permit requirements imposed by DOGAMI, DSL, DEQ, or any other state or federal regulation. Slopes inclinations shall not exceed an average of 1 to 1, horizontal to vertical, within the excavation during mining. I don't understand that one. Because the final slope is in some places, well, it won't exceed an average. It's 1 to 3 at some of those final cuts. That's is the proposal. This is in
Within the excavation during mining. Well, I mean, everything is clear until you have to read it and try to pretend like you understand it. I thought it was clear, but no.
Is this? I think it's conflicting with the application to the point where you're looking at, 1 to 1.
Yeah. But if you're
45 degree angle, which you have proposals in your plan that are exceed 45. So.
yes, I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. There's different slopes at different phases of the mining, is my understanding. 1 to 1, I think, is straight up and down. No?
No, that's 45.
It's a 45 degree.
One down, one over.
Is that the steepest slope, or?
During the mining process, that's the steepest we're proposing. Once it's reclaimed, it's going to be less than that. It'll be -2.
So this will accommodate your plan?
Yeah, and DOGAMI will set forth the requirements on exactly what they want. We're saying this would be just for during mining, not as a part of the reclamation.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Number 11, extraction and processing activities shall be limited to those areas of the site labeled as appropriate for such activities and depicted on the site plan dated August of 2013.
Is the August of 2013, does that lock us into some sites that you've already discussed about moving, or is that a satisfactory date?
That's when they submitted their plan, so that's.
Okay, but I mean, as far as you're looking at it and approving it, sounded like we had earlier, they were gonna build some yurts or something, and then over there, and then over there.
Right, are you kind of referring to the reservoirs?
No, the extraction and processing activities shall be limited to those areas.
Basically
Okay.
what that map
Okay, that's
showed
fine.
us, I think it was exhibit 3 or map 3 or something.
Okay.
There shall be, number 12, there shall be no blasting on the site. Number 13, the mining operator shall carry a comprehensive liability policy covering mining and incidental activities during the term of the operation and reclamation with an occurrence limit of at least $500,000. So we talked about this and we're kind of under the impression that that's per occurrence, so it isn't limited, but only by occurrence of 500,000. That's, I don't know if that's, it's not in our code, or is that our code limit?
It's not a code, it's a condition that was recommended by the applicant.
It seems low. You can get to $500,000 pretty darn gone quick.
It is a standard in the
I don't think we're looking for people, and I probably shouldn't have, not what we're going for here. It's low, and I know that from experience serving on this board. In the short term, it gets extinguished really quickly, and then the county comes into play. And so I'm gonna start that one and be thinking about maybe a minimum of $1 million per incident, is my recommendation.
So it doesn't say per incident either. It's reading
Per
the line.
occurrence, I'm sorry, I'm saying, I'm using incident substitute. I should say.
Yeah, well, with an occurrence limit of at least 500,000. So, okay, yeah, but there ought to be like $1 million to $2 million. With, I mean, there's minimum, maximum, or there's
One
some.
per occurrence,
Yes,
two per
yeah,
incident.
yeah.
Let's start that and we'll come back to it. Number 14, prior to the issuance of a development permit, all permits required by the GAMI, DEQ, DSL, Water Resources Division, or any other required state or federal permits shall be provided to the Josephine County Planning Department as referenced in RLDC 91.030F. All mining and processing of mineral and or aggregate resources shall meet and maintain those permit requirements, including the following. Item A, the applicant shall not initiate mining and activities on the site without the operator furnishing to the planning director a copy of a DEGAMI operating permit and approved reclamation plan or certificate of exemption issued pursuant to the requirements under ORS 517.750 through 517.900 reclamation and mining plans and implementing administrative rules. The county shall defer to the DEGAMI regarding all aspects of the reclamation plan and its administration. Reclaimed land use for the site must be authorized by post-mining zone. Item B, the applicant shall obtain DEQ approval of a spill prevention controls and countermeasures plan and shall comply with the same. Item C, the applicant shall obtain all appropriate permits from Oregon Water Resources Department or for the utilization of water for processing. Yep. Traffic-related conditions. Item 15, the access or service roads to and from the extraction site to a public road shall meet the following standards. The most current air quality standards from Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 340, Division 20, 21, and 28, for ambient air quality for a distance 500 feet in all directions from any public road or conflicting use located along the access road if the mining traffic is the primary cause of the road dust under RLDC 91.030B2. The applicable standards from Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 340, Division 35, for the vehicular noise control for a distance of 500 feet in all directions from any public road or conflicting use located along the access road under RLDC 91.030B1. Item 16, haul truck traffic between the aggregate site and I-5 shall not occur between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. and between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on school days during the school year in order to protect school children waiting for being dropped off by the school bus.
Did you mean to say between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m.?
Yes, I did. 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m.
Right.
2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on school days during the school year in order to protect school children waiting for being dropped off by the school bus.
And was this the agreed on?
How do we get that? There's a newer version or something.
Yes,
Couple of
You've got
copies.
in your packet, you've got the alternatives, and one was, the top one is the original, and the other one is the alternative there, which should have been, planning director might have given you an older version.
19. In this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have it, if you need one of these.
19 is really
16.
Yeah, there's 16, 17, 18 in that, yes.
So the proposed conditions relative to Hall in respect to Three Rivers, proposed by Three Rivers School District, staff report, prior to the start of each school year, the applicant shall obtain a signed and dated agreement between the mine operator and the superintendent of Three Rivers School District. The agreement shall specify that haul trucks either empty or loaded shall not run between the aggregate site and I-5 on the roads used by Three Rivers School District during specified time periods when the buses are running, which the district has the right to modify throughout the school year as necessary. The applicant shall also acknowledge the presence of SBED, special ed buses which pick up and drop off children with special needs. The agreement must be submitted to the planning director no later than the last working day in August each year. Another option is proposed by Kelly Sandow and Sandow Engineering. The applicant shall work with Three Rivers School District prior to each year to ascertain the safest school bus drop-off and pickup locations. The applicant shall then provide movable signage ahead of the selected school bus stops consistent with the requirements in the manual of traffic control devices, which recommends that a school bus stop head sign be placed ahead of any stop in which you can not see 500 feet in advance. The applicant shall submit a letter of satisfaction from the superintendent of Three Rivers to the planning director no later than the last working day in August each year. And additional condition proposed by staff, the applicant shall install speed limit signs at intervals determined by Josephine County Public Works, limiting truck traffic to 45 miles an hour from the mine site to the Interstate 5 in both directions. So, what do you think?
Well, I prefer the first, prior to the starting of the school year, there be a signed agreement between the Three Rivers School District and the Southern Valley Central Gravel. So that's known up front. There's no carrying signs around or doing other kind of stuff. Everybody knows when it's done. Then that agreement should specify that they do not run between I-5 on particular times. So we have 7 or 6 to 7:30. The better time might be 7 to 8. I don't know, but there are some specified times that they know that those bus runs are on Placer Road, and those are the times that are off-site basically, and just the trucks aren't running, and the buses are.
The reason I didn't specify time is because the school district changes on occasion, and they're in that process right now. So every year, depending on what their schedule is, that's when the applicant will need to come to an agreement with the superintendent of Three Rivers and have it signed. But
Yeah.
it changes from year to year.
Well, that's the reason, like I said, it should be the annual before the start of every school year. There are going to be changes of bus routes. But there ought to be known that this is a safe time, kids out there, you don't have to worry about it. And where a truck comes on the road or whatever, this is fine between the hours of, and when the bus comes, they know the bus is going to pick you up at, 7:30 or whatever it is. Okay, so you're safe zone.
Are you saying that you think the residents should be noticed every year what times buses will not
No,
run?
the Sunny Valley Santa Gravel should be done.
I mean, well, they would be the ones making the agreement with the school district,
Right.
Sunnyvale.
Right.
So I see, I don't quite understand what you.
Well, if the school district says, we're gonna be running buses between 7 and 7:30, okay, that's a done deal, it's the understood, that's the agreement, we're not running trucks. If the school district cares that much about the kids, they'll notify the parents.
Okay. So, that's part, so the school district's responsibility to notice the parents, or is it the applicant's responsibility to notice?
No, it's the school district's responsibility to notify the parents of that, I mean.
Okay. All right, I don't think that's something we could put in a condition, as we can't control that,
No,
Rivers does, but.
that's, I'm just saying that the agreement is reached, carrying out the notice, there should be any incumbency of Sunny Valley Santa Gravel to notify the parents, that's the school district's responsibility.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify what you're
Yeah.
getting at.
I'm not there yet. This ends, so this is the starting point. I'm not reading, this first one, where it says, first, the district has the right to modify throughout the school year as necessary.
Yeah.
You agree at the beginning, and that's
Yes,
what
right.
you get, and that's what you gotta
It's
do.
not gonna be special runs
Yeah,
or whatever, but,
that's-
you know, that's covered by the SPD, the special education. Okay, the special education, I cannot imagine that they would say tough kids.
No. That's for us to give the school district the ability to jump around and.
No,
we're-
there has to be
we're operating
consistency.
buses between 7 and 7. That's not okay.
No, there's gotta be consistencies and we plain know what's going on there.
I feel as though this proposal does the same thing, but in a more workable way.
And this proposal is
Proposed by, the engineering firm. The applicant shall work with the Three Rivers School District prior to each school year to ascertain the safest school bus stop, drop off, and pickup locations.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, but I can't see them having to carry signs around in front of school buses, that, to me, that's a little ludicrous. If the school district says, and Sunny Valley, Santa Gravel agrees,
Well, then why?
7:30 is off.
Permanent drop off, I mean, Plaza Road hasn't changed that much, there are designated, and I've seen this on the road, where there's designated drop off and pickup locations that are delineated with permanent signage that say this is where we, school bus route ahead, and then into areas where you can't see 500 feet. Does that make sense?
It makes sense,
It's not movable.
I'm not sure the practicality of it, because, I mean, it's just like having a speed limit on the road. And who doesn't know it's 45 mile an hour on the road? I mean, who doesn't know that? I mean, who'll drive 45 miles on the road? I mean, at least I have to.
So I did the other day, and there was a gentleman on my kid, ready to go, just gangbusters.
And drive as fast as the existing conditions allow.
But there weren't very many. There weren't many signs that said 45 on there.
Well, but again, how long is the sign going to stand there before they shut up or take it off?
That's public works.
Yeah. Our taxpayers.
So I'm comfortable with that second sentence. The applicant shall then provide permanent signage ahead of the selected school bus stops consistent with the requirements of the Manual of Traffic Control Devices, which recommends that a school bus stop ahead sign be placed ahead of any stop in which you cannot see 500 feet in advance. Doesn't that make sense?
But you want permanent signage, not movable signage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the applicant shall submit a letter of satisfaction from the superintendent of the Three Rivers School District to the planning director within the last working day in August each year. And I would include the conditions, additional condition. That sound reasonable?
Well, it sounds reasonable, but again, the workability, if the superintendent of the Three Rivers School District is in a tight situation and he's not gonna be able to do this because he's got this happening and that other thing, then we're gonna hold up Sunny Valley Santa Gravel because we can't get a response out of the school district.
So you had that same challenge with the first one, saying that you're gonna have a
I hadn't
sign
gotten
that
that far yet.
Oh, you have something for that?
Well, no, I don't, but I'm just, they ought to be able to say they've arrived at an agreement. They notify the public planning director, they notify the planning director that there's an agreement reached, and we're not running between 7 and 7:30 minutes to Friday. That's Sunny Valley's job. And Sunny Valley, I mean, the school district ought to respond as well. But if they don't respond, okay, that's the Sunny Valley, that ought not to
So how do we,
on
how do we put that in? Because both of these require
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's Sunny Valley Sand and, Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel, and the superintendent of the Third School District are to report to the planner, submit a letter of satisfaction to the planning director, no later than or whatever. But there's two separate letters. One from Sunny Valley and the other from superintendent of schools.
So help me understand how you'd like to change this. So the applicant and the superintendent of Three Rivers provides a letter to the planning director. Is that what you're looking to try to change? You can't. What does the applicant's letter say?
That they have arrived at an agreement with the superintendent of Three Rivers School.
So what happens if they don't?
Well, and that's, then
What happens if Three Rivers says, you know what, I'm supposed to hire you? I'm never gonna do it.
well, that was a fight that was lost back in August.
So how do we put it in here that says they make every attempt?
Yeah, make every attempt to be good, I'm no problem. But I think the
Something has to be in there.
incumbency ought to be on Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel, they are to notify this school.
But if any one of these conditions is not met, they don't get to mine. That's where I'm coming from.
What is true.
If there isn't a letter, this is the last thing that you hold, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
So how do we, it's important. So how
I
do
don't have a problem saying an attempt is made, or attempted response, or, you know, seeking response by, or,
I'm working off of this second one, is that okay?
that's fine.
Okay, so the applicant shall work with the Three Rivers School District prior to each year to ascertain the safest school bus drop-off and pickup locations.
It'll be prior to each school year.
Did I say that? Prior to each year. The applicant shall work with Three Rivers School District prior to each school year to ascertain the safest school bus drop-off and pickup locations. The applicant shall then provide permanent signage ahead of selected school bus stops consistent with the requirements in the manual of traffic control devices, which recommends that a school bus stop ahead sign be placed ahead of any stop in which you cannot see 500 feet in advance. The applicant and superintendent of Three Rivers School District shall submit a letter of satisfaction to the planning director no later than the last working day in August each year. So that last sentence could be changed to say the applicant shall make every attempt. Okay?
Well,
Is that where the shall make every attempt?
I think the applicant shall submit. The superintendent of schools should make every attempt to submit. In other words, I think the applicant, the onus has to be on the applicant
Right.
to say, we want to demonstrate that we're going to protect these kids as best we can. That doesn't depend upon the superintendent of schools getting a letter back. This is what we're going to do. Now, if the superintendent of schools wants to send a letter saying we're in agreement, great.
So the applicant and the superintendent of Three Rivers School District shall make every attempt. No. So the applicant shall, and the superintendent of Three Rivers School District shall make every attempt to send a letter of satisfaction to the planning director no later than the last working day in August. The additional condition is proposed by staff. The applicant shall install speed limit signs at the interval and Public Works, limiting truck traffic to 45 miles per hour from the mine site to the Interstate 5 in both directions. We good on
No. I mean, it's a waste of signage, a waste of money. I mean, that's public works job anyway. And
So that's
they're,
also,
those signs are gonna, they're not gonna stay there for 20 minutes after, I just think it's an exercise in futility.
that? We could say something to the effect that Public Works provide appropriate signs on that road? Or is that a condition that's already required by
It's already required.
System Transportation Improvement Fund?
Commissioner Hare,
Yes, Public Works.
Neil Burgess of Public Works. For a speed zone on Placer Road, Public Works can make a recommendation, but ultimately that will be decided on a state level. Exactly what their acronym is, but the state speed control board or something to that effect. So that's something that isn't decided yet.
I thought speed was left up to the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners on county thoroughfares, as long as it wasn't in conflict with already determined. Because we've had that recommendation before on the Azalea Robertson Bridge Road, and it is at the discretion of the board to change, that I understood, to change that speed.
No, we'll start the study and then we'll submit our findings and recommendations to the state, whether they concur or reject our findings. So ultimately, I think that will go to a different level.
So what is the legal speed limit on Placer Road right now?
The legal speed limit is basic rule right now, which is the safe and approved speed.
So we could encourage Public Works to get a study done and a letter of recommendations or request to lower the speed limit to 45 at least.
Well, we could do a speed count out there and figure out what the 85th
Yeah.
percentile is, and then go from there. But if the 85th percentile is much higher, it's gonna be hard to convince the state to say, we want to look, this is a good idea to lower the speed limit.
That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Right.
So I just don't want you to,
Conditions on.
You're off the hook.
Excuse me, I have a comment too. Yes. Back to condition number 19. If you phrase it in terms
Well, you've got
of,
there.
Gotten there yet?
for the school
16?
district, yeah, no, actually, you are, the school district one, I'm going backwards. The school bus issue. You
I
have,
might not be comprehensive all 42, but we're referencing this one from time to time. And so I'm gonna go back,
yeah,
you said
I'm going to give you
19?
a copy of mine because that's a dated copy that you got today. So you're misnumbered. But I just wanted to comment that if you say, if the applicant makes every attempt with the school district about the bus schedule and the trucks, it actually takes the teeth out of the county enforcing.
Well, the making every attempt was not for the applicant, it was for the Brew River School District. I personally don't like to see the applicant being held up because I'm just making a worst case scenario. I'm not trying to impugn anybody's reputation, but if the Three River School District has a boondoggle thingamajiggy and they can't get the letter out in time because of whatever's happening, they're looking for a new district superintendent, I don't think that ought to be fall upon the shoulders of Sunny Valley Sand Gravel.
Oh, usually, okay. But actually, this particular proposal came from the school district that we passed it by the superintendent, so.
Yeah, that's great, because that's exactly what they might want, is that entire operation could be held up because they just don't get around to it. Our position at the board is that, no, you need to work with Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel on these parameters to do these things. And that's why I think the amendment that we are looking at, regardless of, we've got to have this copy because this is what we've worked off of, regardless of the date or 19 or, it talks about working out those mitigations ahead of time and then having that letter come. If the letter is not achieved, but those safest school bus drop-off pickup locations are delineated. And I like the idea of a permanent sign. We have it on a number of other roads. There's no reason why this one shouldn't have that, so I'm kind of good with that.
You want this copy?
I'm okay. I don't,
We don't need a copy of anything.
as long as we're all working off the So I'm on 17.
Okay, you should, if you're, prior to initiation of truck hauling,
That's 17.
that's number 20 is more correct, so if you kind of renumber from 20 on down, you actually skipped 3.
Well, the one that we
I
have,
think I need to work off of this one,
Yeah.
and that's the one we're all working off of. These are the copies that were made. So
We'll give you our
this
copy.
came from
You want a copy?
Mr. Lewis's book.
There's, okay, are you gonna go back because there's a couple of important. There's about bridge construction condition and a commercial access.
Can you mark those ones that are on this? Because we're halfway through this.
Okay, are you gonna
I
go
know.
back to it?
Yeah, we'll go back to those,
Okay.
and those will be added
They're
to
marked.
the end.
Okay.
You make sure we don't miss them. So, wow, really unfortunate. Number 17, prior to the initiation of truck hauling from the site, warning signage shall be placed on Placer Road near the approach to the mine site. I think that was already an element of the condition. No, we haven't addressed it yet, but I think that's what I heard the applicant saying anyway. That's what you typically see. Truck, something entering sign, sounds
well,
like.
that's on the placing of the flashing yellow.
Number 18, trees and shrubs shall be cleared, and roadside embankment slopes and other obstructions shall be modified to provide sight distance at the mine access to Placer Road as described in the submitted traffic report dated July of 2013. Sounds good to me. Gravel trucks shall not use the historic Grave Creek Bridge. I want to explore, and this is outside of the conditions, because this is the county, but what you were talking about, I would like to see, I just think a height restriction or something else that just doesn't leave it up to anybody who would be close to the 20 ton limit to be able to use that, but we have to design it in such a way that it doesn't keep people from taking their pictures. You don't need this big bar, right in the middle. I think we can work that out as a county. Groundwater related conditions is item number 20. Water used in the mining or processing of mineral and or aggregate resources shall be appropriated from a source authorized by permit from the Oregon Department of Water Resources, with the exception of on-site processed water released to on-site settling ponds. Turbine water shall not be released into lakes, ponds, or waterways, as referenced by RLDC 91.0300. Item number 21, additional monitoring wells and hydrological testing and coupled with ongoing groundwater level monitoring will establish baseline conditions and identify early groundwater level declines should they occur during mining operations. Pressure transcenders with dedicated data loggers shall be installed to automate monitoring of groundwater levels. Both shall be located in protection to allow long-term use without disruption by mining. The existing observation wells shall be replaced if and when they are decommissioned due to the progression of mining activity. Number 22.
I'm just wondering, where did the wording in 21 come from? Was that agreed upon or talked about or submitted by the applicant or what? You missed it.
That was submitted by the applicant.
Number 22, monitoring data shall be reviewed and reported to DOGAMI at quarterly intervals for a minimum of 3 years and shall continue per DOGAMI requirements until mining activities are complete. The monitoring program shall document current conditions and identify any recommended mitigation measures that must be implemented to counter substantial loss of water resources for the nearby residents. Number 23, infiltration trenches shall be constructed around each mining cell. The water applied to the infiltration trench shall provide a positive hydrologic head in the sand and gravel that reduces groundwater declines adjacent to the mine cells. Monitoring as well as observation seepage into the active site shall be utilized for development of final design and evaluation of mitigation measures as necessary. Should proactive infiltration fail or be deemed inappropriate, well improvements shall as resetting pumps at deeper depths, well deepening or changes in the mining operation shall be considered as alternative mitigation options to alleviate water quality and quantity impacts. Okay. Number 24, prior to mine operations, a final spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan shall be developed for the facilities substantially consistent with the sample document provided by the U.S. Environmental Agency. Acoustic-related conditions, all mining and processing of mineral and/or aggregate resources shall comply with OAR noise emission standards. The mine operator shall comply with the noise study prepared by Daly, Stanley and Associates Incorporated, DSA, dated August 2013, that attests that the circumstances of the site and/or proposed mitigation will bring the site into compliance under RLDC 91.030G. Sounds good. The mine operator shall comply with the following noise mitigation measures proposed by DSA. 12-foot high berms shall be constructed along all portions of the eastern property line as noise mitigation barriers. 15-foot high berms shall be constructed northeast of receiver R13 as noise mitigation barrier. Item C, a polyurethane or rubber screens or proximate berms or buffers shall be used to mitigate noise impacts associated with the operation of crushing and screening equipment when it is located in the processing trommel area and crusher operation area. Item D, off-road equipment, excavators, front-end loaders, loading trucks, and bulldozers used for internal site operations shall be fitted with broadband rather than traditional narrowband backup alarms. Number E, mufflers shall be required for all on-site haul trucks. And item F, the genset shall be equipped with up-close barriers for a muffler and inlet-outlet silencers. Air quality related conditions, item number 27, the mining operation shall comply with the most current air quality standards from Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 340, Division 20, 21, and 28 for ambient air quality for a distance of 500 feet in all directions from any public road or conflicting use located along the access road if the mining traffic is primary cause of the road dust under RLDC 91.030B2. Good. Number 28, the main facility access road, Placer Road to the scale house shall be paved to prevent the generation of dust. Sounds good. 29, the discharge of contaminants and dust caused by the mining and processing of mineral and/or aggregate resources shall comply with the applicable DEQ ambient air quality and emission standards. The operator shall cease all mining and processing operation within 1 hour of a malfunction of any air pollution control equipment and shall not resume operation until the malfunction has been corrected in compliance with the applicable DEQ rules and standards as referenced in the RLDC 91.030I. Number 30, on-site surface traveled by off-road or on-road sources shall be watered whenever significant visible dust emissions. How do you pronounce that? Opacity approaching 20%, or observed behind or beside a moving vehicle. Item number 31, water sprayers shall be used to control dust emissions from crushers and screeners operating on site. Item number 32, the majority, 51% or more of terms of total fleet horsepower of diesel engines empowering off-road equipment shall meet federal Tier 2 off-road engine standards or better. This requirement shall be met by using equipment with engines originally built to meet these standards or through retrofit to reduce emissions to these levels. Item number 33, on-site idle times for heavy-duty diesel truck engines shall be limited to no more than 5 minutes per truck trip. See, it sounds fine, but it sounds short.
That's good. It's just not supposed to run very long. You say it sounds short, 5 minutes sounds short?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that the idea is you're gonna sit there and wait for your load, you're gonna idle for 30 minutes. No, sorry, not here.
Wetland riparian flood-related conditions. No excavation or processing shall occur within the riparian corridor. All mining and processing activity shall be set back 50 feet from the ordinary high water mark of grade in Shanks Creek under RLDC 72.040 Point B, point 1. No problem. Number 35, no mining activity shall occur within 100 feet of, within the 100-year flood hazard area of Grave and Shanks Creek. The floodplain boundary shall be flagged or fenced and avoided by all mining activity under RLDC 91.030. L. 36, construction of the access road to Placer Road shall occur above the ordinary high water mark of Grave Creek and shall comply with the standards contained in Article 69.1 floodplain hazard overlay of the RLDC 91.030L. Permits are obtained from the Department of State Lands, DSL, and the Army Corps of Engineers, and implements any required pre-disturbance mitigation. Number 37, no mining activity, excavation, and processing shall occur within the boundaries of any on-site wetlands. Number 39, the applicant shall follow the mitigation measures contained in the riparian mitigation plan submitted. Number 40, the applicant shall install native trees and shrubs in accordance with the county screening regulations. Item number 41, access roads adjacent to the mining area boundary shall be gravelled with crushed rock with normal sizing of at least 1 inch maximum dimension. 42, failure to perform or continue to perform any of the standards required by this section shall render the development permit void and subject to any and all enforcement procedures contained in this code or as authorized by any other law, rule, or civil authority under RLDC 91.030P. There's one that we wanted to come back to.
Two, I think it was number 13 on our list, or 7, 13.
Let's address those and then we'll go to your list. The minimum shall occur within 30 feet of the William Boundary. Let's do number 13. The mining operator shall carry a comprehensive liability policy covering mining and incidental activities during the term of the operation and reclamation with an occurrence limit of at least $500,000.
I think it might be standard, but I think it would be a standard number that's often used today, especially in insurance, is $1 million and 2.
Our standard for the county is you don't get to utilize anything like a fairground or whatever without a minimum of $1 million. And in certain activities, we put that up to 2. So I don't think there's going to be real hard fun over that, and it certainly will make you feel better. So
I would support that, changing that to a limit of at least $1 million.
no mining shall occur. Item number 7. No mining shall occur within 30 feet of the Williams pipeline crossing the property or within 15 to 20 feet of the PP&L electric towers. So let's do the tower. Having a range of 15 to 20 feet is totally inappropriate if you're setting a setback. It needs to be 15 or it needs to be 20, but there shouldn't be any variance. So 20 feet.
20 feet.
The other one, you get the so
the idea of having the Williams pipeline being, the applicant has already said there was a 30-foot cut. The Williams pipeline is saying that's perfectly fine with them. I don't have any problem supporting the owners of that pipeline and their multi-million-dollar investment in that pipeline. And saying,
do you guys have clarification on the 40 and 20 and how that? would be
I don't know
accomplished?
side it is, but they did verbally tell me it was 40 to 20, not 30-30. So you could either phrase it in a term of within the easement or say 40-40 to give it extra safety. So it's kind of up to you how
Well,
to,
the minimum is 20 as you're referencing,
well,
so we would
there's,
say 30 and 30.
I would have said 30-30, but they told me after the fact that since this was written, that one side was 40 and one side was 20. So pretty much that,
when you say one side, what are we talking about?
well, the pipeline,
No.
and then there's it's a 60-foot easement, But instead of 30 feet on one side and 30 feet on the other, it's 40 feet on one side and 20 on the other. I
Okay.
have no idea why.
Dennis, you look like you're ready, Mr. Lewis.
Just clarifying that the center line, it's not located on the center line, it's offset within the easement there.
The pipeline is
The
not.
pipeline itself is in the center within the easement, so it's 20 feet from the pipeline to the easement boundary on one side and 40 feet on the other side. And so in this regulation, you're saying they have to stay 30 feet away from the pipeline. Well, on the side where it's 40, well, that's automatic. On the side that it's 20, it means that they need to stay 30 feet away from the center line of where the pipeline is.
So if you just said, do not infringe on the easement and then let the company determine where those lines are, you could do it that way, or you could take an extra safety measure and add 10 feet to one side and call it 40-40. But it's up to you.
Additional 10 feet, where the pipe is
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to have it 30-30, we could have it 40-30.
Well,
maybe
yeah, it's confusing.
sensible on, one side, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, one side is good for the other side. So if 20 feet is comfortable, we go with the easement as it's.
How much of the pipeline is on a 20-foot facing from where the easement line would be? Is that a quarter of a mile, or that, 20 feet, some spot?
We don't know. We don't know that. That's why I'm thinking maybe just leave it, just say don't infringe or intrude upon the easement and let the company mark it off and enforce it.
Could there be a way of saying that we will not intrude upon the easement, and we'll give a variance of 10-foot of protection of intrusion on the easement, because that would be the 30-foot, but that wouldn't have to mess with the other side. I mean,
The problem is we don't know which side is which.
oh, okay.
So I was like, the negative condition is not interpretable, but it's up to setting up parameters that we're looking for a safe distance from excavation, from the pipe, from the location of the pipe, so. um,
30-30.
30.
Yeah.
So in some situations, there'll be a total take of 70 feet.
But will that also necessitate the pipeline company having to go back and get new easements?
This is an additional condition.
No.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the shaking head over there, and they said, the shaking head said no, so I'll acquiesce.
So they won't need a new easement. So it's good on one side, it gives you an extra 10 feet, but then it just takes away 10 feet on the 40-foot side. And we don't know which side.
Yeah, okay. I'm satisfied. Warm you.
I'll be here all day, I never get bored. It doesn't address for me the element of shut-off valves, and I would be fine with holding to the easement. That's what has been time-tested and proven over time for this organization is the appropriate thoroughfare they need. But not every place has an aggregate operation where I've never operated one of those excavators. I've always wanted to, but when I've seen them work, they can do a large amount in very swift action. And to not have a shut-off valve, I don't know the parameters around that, but I don't know, if it's $100,000, it's $500 to put in a valve, to put in a valve.
Oh, yeah,
That's
sure.
If it's $1 million, well, there's a valve there, I don't know. So putting a condition that they do everything possible to accommodate and mitigate the risks of this operation, with potentially putting a valve in above and below.
I wouldn't have any problem with that kind of
Excuse me,
word.
they did tell us, and I forgot to mention it, that the shut-off valve was on the north side of the property. And now, Mr. Webb might clarify this, but I'm assuming the oil is flowing from north to south, in which case it would cut it off at the very beginning of the property. So just so that helps, you
Right.
discuss that.
Problem, I appreciate that, but it's not like a gas line, a natural gas line is 700 PSI, it's not the same thing as a water line at 20 PSI. Eventually, if you release that pressure, it's done, but to release 700 pounds of pressure, you could probably put in miles worth of natural gas into the situation before it got to an ambient pressure where it would be fine. That's just my own logical thinking. So you need one on both sides in order to restrict the problem. So what I said before, I think is probably what I'd like to have in here is that just all practical measures of safety relative to this operation be explored.
That's fine.
We're not addressing the easement. I think the easement is what
The easement,
It's fine.
easement is one thing, this is something else, thing I will go along with that, is it's not mandating that they put in that before the, so, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that the company that has got multi-million dollars of a product in the ground is going to do everything necessary to protect their investment at the time.
So no mining shall occur, that element is
I
not,
don't like the no
easement
mining.
is what stands, not
Right.
the setback
Right.
requirement. Okay. Are you clear on some wordage?
No? I've
So,
got 20 foot
seven.
PPNL tower.
We're not doing a setback. Oh, we got 20 feet on the PPNL, you got that.
Yeah,
But we're keeping with the easement
okay.
on the setback requirement. So there is no additional conditional use on that, other than the easement. And all possible safety measures with regard to this application and the affected properties will be explored and
Need to be forward or should be
implemented.
forward.
Should be explored and implemented.
Yes, to provide the highest level of safety. Good. Did we just finish with it? That was it.
All those, and then you get grade 3.
Those
Three more?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have those written down?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're at 4:30. The board has a meeting in Cape Junction at 6. We're gonna be here for a little while because we still have to go into the element of findings and talk about all of those. I think Commissioner Walker should be, I don't know what your opinion is, but I don't wanna continue this thing. I'd rather, send Commissioner Walker, tell her we'll be on our way, or,
There's something I just really like.
or what? Well, we need to give her appropriate notice, so please let her know that we may not be attending the Cape Junction forum tonight. Okay, number 16?
Yes. That is the original number, so.
Yeah, so we'll make this number 43. The condition is the approach shall be designed by a professional engineer who shall assure adequate site distance and address road geometry.
They approach it too.
I think the site, for looking at the new access.
We do need to clarify.
I should think so. The approach,
I don't have it now.
no, it's okay. I'd say the access point of approach to the site. Is that right?
Yeah, where it goes into the mine.
Okay, I mean, as long as you know where this approach is going to, the approach to the Sunny Valley mine
Right.
site, or whatever, delineated it.
The access point and approach shall be designed by a professional. 16 will stand. The approach shall be constructed simultaneously with the proposed private bridge across Grave Creek and shall not begin until the applicant has approval from all appropriate authorities such as the Oregon Department of State Lands, Army Corps of Engineers, and to construct the bridge.
Just the wording.
You want me to say it?
No, I mean, the final to construct a bridge ought to be somewhere before what's in ours. So construct a bridge in accordance with whatever it is.
The approach shall be constructed simultaneously with the proposed private bridge construction across Grave Creek and shall not begin until the applicant has approval from all appropriate authorities such as Oregon Department of State Lands and the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
Number 44, applicant shall obtain an approved commercial road access permit from Public Works prior to the issuance of a development permit from planning. That's standard. Okay. That's 45.
So 16, 17, 18, 19.
Yes, so 42, 43.
Please.
Did you have any other conditions that you would recommend? Commissioner?
Commissioners, did you, since we missed a few, your version and mine are different, did you address the one about the Cary Street Bridge? Did you go over that one? Okay, so we must have missed it. There's a condition that says, hauling over Cary Street Bridge is restricted to passenger vehicles. All trucks shall use the new access.
Can you tell me which number that is?
Mine is number 23, it's probably number 20, if it's on yours. It's a yellow. Yeah, this was a later edition, so it may not be
Yeah,
on
it's
yours.
But I don't have any problem with that. That's sort of restating what I was restated, stated already. The great, oh, you're talking about, on this, not some. My presupposition determine my conclusion.
Hauling over Cary Street Bridge is restricted to passenger vehicles. All trucks shall use the new access. That's,
Cary Street Bridge?
Cary Street Bridge. I don't know what that one,
Well, now,
I don't know what the low limit is, I don't know if it's required, I mean, if it's part of their plan to use it.
is this,
Yeah,
Neil Burgess, Public Works again. We have this bridge posted at 80,000 pounds, which is the legal limit. And we don't want trucks going over this because they're running at the operating range, which causes damage to the bridge over time. So some of these trucks can be posted as special permits, 5,000 pounds. So we're trying to limit the trucks to use the new haul route that they're going to build. That makes sense?
but what if, I mean, if it's rated for 80 and you got a truck that's empty, why don't we have it rated appropriately to say maybe it's, you don't want anything over 40? What I'm saying is that, you know, an empty truck over that doesn't have the same impact as a fully loaded trucks, so just to restrict trucks doesn't make sense if it's a weight issue.
Correct.
So a truck that doesn't meet an 80,000 pound load limit would be in violation if it went over that at 105.
Yes.
So why are you recommending restricting all truck traffic?
We're recommending restricting all truck traffic based on the applicant's indication to us that they were going to use their new haul route, and then their other access was, I think, for an easement. So that was just to cover that in a way and to protect the bridge.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I mean,
A low limit's a low limit, there's an aesthetic element to a covered bridge. Technically, you could put something on that that's 20 ton or whatever. If they want to use it as the return when the truck is empty,
yeah.
how do I say? I mean, that almost might make sense for non-conflicting, the guys that are loaded from out. Other ones go, I don't know. But I don't think I have enough right now to put a condition on that. That's something that Public Works maybe wants to work out with the applicant later. That's not a condition.
Excuse me. There's also a few residences along that road, by that bridge, that you might consider also.
Well, it's not in the proposed haul route, is it? It's not part of the application.
No.
There's no plan to use it.
It would be a violation for them to use it anyway. No. It's just not part of the proposed application. Hey, I'm gonna ask the applicant to provide clarity on this. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Good.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Andreas Ulrich, Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel. To clarify that, it was our desire to not use that as an access for commercial use because we have an easement right now to get access from the property from the east end. And so it was our desire to build a new bridge and for all the haul trucks to go out the new access on Placer Road, not to go out the existing access. However, we'd like to retain that access for passenger vehicles. Another secondary safety access, and then also we'd like to use it for the construction of the bridge so that we can access both sides of the creek to build that bridge. But once the bridge has been installed and approved, we use that as the primary access to the site.
So if we put in this restriction, all trucks shall use the new access, which is the bridge you haven't constructed, that'd be really challenging, right? Practically impossible to construct your new bridge.
That's correct, but the way it's written, it says all trucks shall use the new access. So until the new access is constructed, we like to use the old access or existing access for construction vehicles to build the new access. It's kind of a chicken and egg a little bit. But once the new access is constructed, it is our desire to use that exclusively for hauling, commercial hauling out of the site. We felt it was in the best interest of the neighbors to not use that route with the existing access to be sensitive as much as we could.
Okay, great.
No, I don't.
Okay. So that proposed on this sheet, number 23 condition is not going to make it on the final list. Do you have any other conditions? I don't. Either I am concerned about that right-hand turn from Placer onto Street of Hell. I don't think you can make that turn.
Of course, I mean, yeah,
Right past the cover.
yeah, yeah. That, I mean, to me, that is something that,
I don't know how you mitigate that other than reconstructing that intersection.
well, yeah.
And they gotta go over that line and make that turn. But everybody's been doing
Everybody's
it.
doing it. Yes, thanks.
So, log trucks and everybody else is doing
I think if, I'm much more concerned about having that shoulder area rebuilt and having it, not just putting down some new asphalt or something, but I mean, have it rebuilt well. so that that can withstand those turns and that kind of thing. I think that the average human driving a vehicle is clever enough to realize that, oh shoot, there's a truck there, and they can slow down. It's not like you're coming through
Well, that's what a truck would have to do,
freeway or
is just
whatever.
re-engineer that
Yeah.
left hand, that far right hand lane is available to make that turn after they always done.
Sure.
Maybe that's something I look at with public works, and some sort of confusion to that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a condition that can.
Looks has a comment.
Nora Schwartz, Public Works. I just wanted to comment that according to the Oregon Commercial Driver's Manual, the maneuver that we're talking about, the technical term for it is button hook, and it is a legal maneuver. So as a practical matter, this sort of maneuver can be expected to happen in all types of industry work. Perhaps signage might be one of the things you would like to consider, along with a bit of widening to the degree that it can be done. Because I'm sure there will come a time when that button hook maneuver is going to happen again. It's just logical.
It happens in Grants Pass. I mean,
Oh,
it's
sure.
stuff. Yeah, they get over into the other lane and make the turn.
Yes, exactly.
So it happens right downtown every day.
Yeah, and again, I'm misunderstanding, I don't really care if it's legal or not legal, that's not my concern. My concern is that shoulder is getting eaten away now, that shoulder needs to be rebuilt that can withstand trucks turning using that dirt, that dirt has to be changed to asphalt, concrete, or whatever. I'm not a highway person, but somehow that shoulder's gotta be rebuilt, so it's not gonna cave in. I mean, if it's caving in now or cracking up now, and taking up to going up to some of the lane surface, you start putting 10, 15 trucks a day loaded down with, 80,000 pound of aggregate, that thing will turn into Mud City if it's raining, and something has to be done to solve that problem.